I still hear the engine revving in my sleep, my own SUV, speeding away with my 2-year-old Emma screaming in the back seat. But here's the thing nobody talks about. What happens after you become a hero? What happens when saving your child makes you famous, and famous makes you broken? I'm Mia Clark, 37, from Sacramento. I teach kindergarten, drink too much coffee, and until 6 months ago, my biggest worry was whether Emma would eat her vegetables. I was just another mom in yoga pants at Target, you know? The kind of person who waves at neighbors and forgets to lock her car doors because, honestly, who expects armed thieves at 2 in the afternoon? God, I was so naive. That Tuesday started normal. Emma had a doctor's appointment, nothing serious, just her regular checkup. We stopped at that little strip mall on Florin Road. You know, the one with the sketchy gas station and the nail salon that's always empty? I parked right in front of the pediatrician's office, left the engine running because it was 95 degrees and Emma gets cranky in the heat. I'm fumbling with a diaper bag, trying to find her insurance card, when I hear Emma giggle. She's waving at someone through the window. I look up and see this guy, tall, maybe 20-something, wearing a Lakers jersey that's seen better days. He's smiling at her, making funny faces. Why didn't that feel wrong? Why didn't I trust my gut? Cute kid, he says, and his voice is friendly enough. Normal. The kind of voice that asks for directions or compliments your shoes at Starbucks. Thanks, I say, still digging through that black hole of a diaper bag. She's usually shy with strangers. That's when I notice his friend. Shorter guy, hoodie pulled up despite the heat, hands shoved deep in his pockets. He's not looking at Emma. He's looking at my purse, my phone sitting on the passenger seat, the way I've left everything just exposed. The tall guy takes a step closer. Mind if I ask what kind of car this is? I'm thinking of getting one for my sister. And I'm about to answer when the hoodie guy moves. Fast. 1 second he's standing there, the next he's yanking open my driver's door. Get out, he says, and there's something in his hand now. Something that makes my blood turn to ice water. I freeze. Complete deer in headlights mode. This can't be happening. This is Sacramento, not some crime documentary. This is Tuesday afternoon, and I'm supposed to be talking to Dr. Martinez about Emma's growth chart in 5 minutes. Lady, I said, get out. Hoodie guy's voice cracks a little, like he's nervous too. The tall one is already sliding into the passenger seat, reaching for my purse. But Emma is still in her car seat, clutching her stuffed elephant, and she's starting to whimper because she can sense something's wrong. That little sound, that tiny scared noise she makes, it flips some switch in my brain. Wait, I say, my voice barely working. My daughter, please, just let me get my daughter. Hoodie guy looks at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. What daughter? And that's when I realize he never looked in the back seat. Neither of them did. They saw a running car, an easy target, and they moved without thinking. They have no idea there's a 2-year-old behind those tinted windows. This is where everything goes sideways. Please, I whisper, taking a step toward the back door. She's just a baby. The tall guy twists around, sees Emma for the first time, and his face goes white. Dude, there's a kid in here. So? We're taking the car, not the kid. Lady, back up. But I can't back up. Every instinct I have is screaming at me to get to Emma. She's crying now, real tears, reaching for me with those tiny hands that still smell like the strawberry soap we used at bath time this morning. That's when I do something incredibly stupid. Or incredibly brave. I'm still not sure which. I pull out my phone and hit the live button on Instagram. This is Mia Clark, I say, my voice shaking so hard I can barely get the words out. I'm at the strip mall on Florin Road, and 2 men are stealing my car with my 2-year-old daughter inside. The license plate is 8G4-7YJ2. Please, if anyone sees this car. Hoodie guy lunges at me, trying to grab the phone, but I'm already backing away, still recording. The tall guy is shouting something I can't understand, and Emma is screaming now, that heart-shattering wail that every parent knows means pure terror. They peel out of the parking lot with my baby, and I run after them. Looking back, this is the moment that broke me. You've probably seen the video. 47 million views and counting. There I am, sprinting down Florin Road in flip-flops, holding my phone like it's a lifeline, sobbing and screaming license plate numbers to whoever's watching. My voice gets more hysterical with every step, more desperate, more raw. They have my baby, I keep saying. They have my baby, they have my baby, they have my baby. The comments started immediately. Hundreds of them, then thousands. People sharing the video, calling the police, forming their own search parties. Someone spotted my SUV at a McDonald's 3 miles away. Another person saw it heading toward the freeway. The whole city was watching, hunting, helping. But here's what the video doesn't show: the 18 minutes between when they drove away and when the police found them. 18 minutes of not knowing if I'd ever see Emma again. 18 minutes of imagining every horrible thing that could happen to a toddler in the hands of desperate strangers. 18 minutes of running until my lungs burned and my legs gave out, still live streaming because it was the only thing keeping me connected to hope. Those 18 minutes aged me a decade. A patrol officer found me collapsed on the sidewalk outside a Taco Bell, still clutching my phone, still broadcasting to an audience that had grown to tens of thousands. My flip-flops were somewhere behind me on the asphalt. My feet were bleeding. I couldn't stop shaking. "Ma'am, we found your daughter," the officer said, kneeling beside me. "She's safe. She's asking for her mama." The relief hit me like a physical blow. I threw up right there on the sidewalk, in front of 40,000 strangers watching my live stream. Pure adrenaline and terror leaving my body all at once. Emma was at the police station, unharmed but confused, still clutching her elephant. The thieves had panicked when they realized they'd accidentally kidnapped a child. They'd dumped the car in a Walmart parking lot and run. Security cameras caught everything. 2 arrests within an hour. I should have felt victorious, right? We got Emma back. The bad guys were caught. Justice served. But that night, lying in bed with Emma curled against my chest, both of us finally safe, I couldn't stop crying. And not the good kind of crying, the relieved kind. This was something darker, deeper. Like something inside me had cracked that couldn't be fixed. That's when I learned that surviving trauma is just the beginning. The video went viral overnight. Local news picked it up first, then national. Sacramento mom's heroic chase saves toddler. Mother's live stream leads to arrest of carjackers. When mama bear instincts go viral. Everyone wanted to interview me. Good Morning America. The Today Show. Dr. Phil's people called twice. Suddenly, I was America's brave mom, the symbol of maternal love conquering evil. But here's what nobody talks about in those feel-good segments. Heroes don't sleep. Heroes don't eat. Heroes check the locks 17 times before bed and panic when their toddler is out of sight for 30 seconds. I couldn't drive for weeks. The sight of my replacement SUV, identical to the stolen one, made me physically sick. I'd sit in the driver's seat, hands shaking, unable to turn the key. What if it happened again? What if next time they didn't dump Emma in a parking lot? What if next time the what-ifs were eating me alive? Emma started having nightmares. She'd wake up screaming for Mama's car and wouldn't let me leave her sight. Daycare became impossible. Grocery shopping became impossible. Normal life became impossible. And the internet. God, the internet never forgets. Every day, someone tagged me in a repost of the video. This mom is goals. Faith in humanity restored. What would you do for your child? They meant well, I know they did. But every notification was like reliving that day. Every "you're so brave" comment felt like a lie because brave people don't hide in their bathrooms having panic attacks. Brave people don't need 3 glasses of wine to fall asleep. I wasn't brave. I was broken. The breaking point came 3 months later. I was at Target, trying to shop for Emma's birthday party, when a woman approached me. "Oh my God, you're the carjacking mom," she squealed, pulling out her phone. "Can I get a selfie? My sister will die. You're like, totally famous." I tried to smile, tried to be gracious, but my hands started shaking. The store felt too bright, too loud. Emma was in the cart, playing with her elephant, completely unaware that her trauma had become entertainment for strangers. I can't," I whispered, abandoning our cart and rushing for the exit. The woman followed us. Come on, just one picture. You're a hero. Heroes don't run away from Target. Heroes don't fall apart in parking lots. That night, I called my sister Lisa in Portland. We hadn't talked much since the incident, not because she didn't care, but because I couldn't handle the way people looked at me now. Like I was made of glass. Like my trauma was contagious. I think I need help, I told her, the words feeling strange in my mouth. Professional help. Thank God, she said, and I could hear her crying on the other end. I've been waiting for you to say that. Dr. Sarah Kellerman specialized in PTSD, particularly in cases involving children. Her office smelled like vanilla candles and felt like a safe cocoon, the kind of place where you could fall apart without judgment. What you experienced, she told me during our first session, wasn't just a carjacking. It was every parent's worst nightmare played out in front of millions of people. Your trauma has trauma. She was the first person to acknowledge that being viral had made everything worse. The constant reminders, the public ownership of my pain, the pressure to be grateful and strong and inspiring when all I wanted was to disappear. The internet made me a hero, I told her. But heroes aren't supposed to be this damaged. Heroes, she said gently, are just people who did something difficult when they had to. That doesn't make them immune to consequences. Finally, someone got it. We worked on EMDR therapy, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, all these techniques with long names that basically boiled down to one thing: learning to live with what happened without letting it destroy what came next. It wasn't linear. Some days I felt strong, capable, like maybe I could handle being the carjacking mom for the rest of my life. Other days, the sound of screeching tires would send me into a full panic attack. Emma was in therapy too, play therapy with a specialist who understood childhood trauma. Watching her slowly start to sleep through the night, seeing her laugh again without that shadow of fear in her eyes, that was better than any viral video. But the real test was still coming. The court date arrived like a storm on the horizon. David Martinez and Jerome Williams, 22 and 19 respectively, were being charged with carjacking, kidnapping, and child endangerment. The prosecution wanted me to testify, to face them in court and tell my story again. I can't, I told the district attorney, a sharp woman named Rebecca Foster, who looked like she could prosecute her way through hell. I can't relive it again. Mia, she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. These men put you and Emma through hell. Don't you want justice? Justice. What a complicated word. The thing is, I'd seen David and Jerome in the news coverage. David, the tall one who'd made faces at Emma, had a baby sister Emma's age. Jerome, the one with the hoodie, was working 2 jobs to help his grandmother pay for cancer treatments. They weren't monsters. They were kids who'd made a terrible choice in a moment of desperation. Does that excuse what they did?
Hell no.
But it complicated my feelings about justice. Dr. Kellerman and I spent weeks preparing for the testimony. Role-playing, breathing exercises, grounding techniques. She'd sit in the courtroom with me, a familiar face in a sea of strangers and cameras. Because of course there would be cameras. The media attention had died down, but a court case involving the viral carjacking mom was news. Local stations, court TV, even some national outlets sent reporters. My trauma was entertainment again. The night before testimony, I couldn't sleep. Emma was at Lisa's house in Portland, safe from the circus. I sat in my empty living room, staring at the spot where Emma's toys usually scattered across the floor. What if I couldn't do it? What if I fell apart on the stand? But then I thought about that 18-minute live stream. 47 million people had watched me at my most desperate, most terrified, most raw. They'd seen me break down completely. And somehow, I'd survived that exposure. Maybe I was stronger than I thought. The courthouse was a zoo. Reporters, cameras, curious onlookers who'd followed the story from the beginning. I walked through the metal detectors feeling like I was entering a war zone. David and Jerome sat at the defendant's table, both looking younger than I remembered. Jerome couldn't meet my eyes. David kept glancing at the gallery, probably looking for family. They were someone's sons. Someone's brothers. District Attorney Foster led me through the events methodically. The normal afternoon, the approach, the moment I realized Emma was in the car. The courtroom was dead silent except for the scratch of pens and the quiet whir of cameras. Then she asked me to describe the live stream. My voice caught. Dr. Kellerman nodded encouragingly from the gallery. I pulled out my phone because I didn't know what else to do. My daughter was disappearing, and I needed help. I needed the whole world to help me find her. What was going through your mind during those 18 minutes? Every parent's worst nightmare. That I might never see her again, I whispered. That I'd failed her. That some stranger was holding my baby and she was scared and calling for me, and I wasn't there. My voice broke completely. The judge offered a recess, but I shook my head. I needed to finish this. I kept running because stopping felt like giving up. I kept talking to the camera because 40,000 people were helping me look for her. They were sharing the video, calling the police, being my eyes and ears across the whole city. They were parenting with me when I couldn't parent alone. That was the moment I understood what the viral video really meant. It wasn't just entertainment or trauma porn. It was 40,000 strangers dropping everything to help a desperate mother find her child. It was community at its most raw and essential. The defense attorney, a tired-looking man named Public Defender Ross, tried to be gentle with his cross-examination. He asked about my emotional state, whether I'd felt threatened, whether I believed his clients intended to harm Emma. No, I said honestly. I don't think they knew she was there. I think they saw a running car and made a split-second decision without thinking about consequences. But they did take your child, even accidentally. Yes. And that caused trauma that my daughter and I are still dealing with every day. Truth without hatred. That felt important. When Jerome's grandmother testified during the sentencing phase, I found myself crying. Not for my own pain, but for hers. This elderly woman who'd raised her grandson alone, who was fighting cancer while watching him destroy his life with bad choices. Pain radiates outward like ripples in a pond. The sentences were fair, I thought. David got 3 years. Jerome got 2, both with credit for time served and mandatory therapy. Not enough to ruin their lives, but enough to make the consequences real. After the verdict, Jerome's grandmother approached me in the hallway. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely audible. I'm so sorry about your baby, about what my boy did. I could have walked away. Should have, maybe. But looking at her, 70-something years old, wearing a church dress and orthopedic shoes, carrying the weight of her grandson's choices on her shoulders. He's not a bad kid, I told her. He made a bad choice. There's a difference. She started crying then, right there in the courthouse hallway, and I found myself hugging this stranger whose grandson had terrorized my family. Forgiveness is weird like that. It happens when you're not looking. The media wanted a statement about the verdict, about how I felt seeing justice served. But standing there with Jerome's grandmother, justice felt more complicated than that. I hope, I told the reporters, that David and Jerome get the help they need to make better choices. And I hope other families never have to go through what Emma and I went through. That was it. No triumph, no victory speech. Just hope. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. The news cycle moved on to other tragedies, other heroes, other viral moments. The video of my testimony got some traction, but nothing like the original live stream. Emma and I started a new routine. Therapy twice a week, swimming lessons on Saturdays, dinner with Lisa and her family once a month via video call. Normal life, slowly rebuilt from the pieces of our shattered before. But normal looks different now. I still check the locks more than I should. Emma still sleeps with 3 stuffed animals instead of 1, building a fortress of comfort around herself. We both startle at loud noises, at unexpected approaches, at the sound of car doors slamming. But we also appreciate things differently. The safety of our living room feels precious now. Emma's laughter sounds like music because I remember the silence of those 18 minutes. Boring Tuesday afternoons feel like gifts. Trauma teaches you what matters. 6 months after the trial, I got a letter from David Martinez. He was in a prison literacy program, working toward his GED, planning to study social work when he got out. I know you don't owe me forgiveness, he wrote in careful handwriting. But I want you to know that thinking about your little girl's scared face changed something in me. I never want to cause that kind of fear again. I didn't write back. Wasn't ready for that level of connection. But I kept the letter, filed away with all the other pieces of this complicated story. Some stories don't have clean endings. Emma's 4th birthday party was small, just a few families from her new preschool, Lisa, and her kids visiting from Portland. No media, no strangers with cameras, no reminders of our viral fame. But as I watched Emma blow out her candles, making a wish with the serious concentration only toddlers possess, I thought about that live stream. About 47 million people who'd watched our worst day and somehow made it bearable by witnessing it with us. Community doesn't always look like you expect. What did you wish for, baby? I asked as she finished her cake. That the scared dreams go away, she said matter-of-factly. And that we get a purple car next time. Kids are resilient in ways that break your heart. The scared dreams are getting better, slowly. Emma sleeps through the night most of the time now. I can drive to the grocery store without panic attacks, though I still park close to the entrance and keep my keys in my hand. We're not the same people we were before that Tuesday afternoon. We're more careful, more aware, more grateful for ordinary moments. We're also more connected to the fragility of safety, the randomness of violence, the way trauma can reshape a life in 18 minutes. But we're still here. Still together. Still learning to be okay. Sometimes people recognize me in public, though it happens less now. Usually, they're kind, sharing their own stories of fear and survival. Occasionally, they want selfies or autographs, still seeing me as the viral mom instead of just Mia. I've learned to say no gracefully. Thank you for the kind words, but we're having a private family day. Most people understand. The ones who don't, well, their feelings aren't my responsibility anymore. Boundaries are a form of self-care. Last month, Emma started asking about the scary day when the men took Mama's car. She's old enough now to understand that something important happened, something that changed us. Were you brave, Mama? She asked while we were coloring at the kitchen table. I thought about all the ways I could answer that. About the viral video, the news coverage, the hero mom narrative that followed us for months. I was scared, I told her honestly. Really, really scared. But I love you so much that being scared didn't matter. Love is stronger than scared. That felt more honest than brave. She nodded seriously, then went back to coloring a purple elephant that looked suspiciously like the stuffed one she still sleeps with. Some truths are simple enough for a 4-year-old to understand. The video is still out there, somewhere in the permanent memory of the internet. 47 million views of the worst 18 minutes of my life. Sometimes I wonder who's watching it now, what they're thinking, whether it helps or hurts to see someone else's pain laid bare. I hope it helps. I hope some parent watching it feels less alone in their fear, more connected to the community of people who would drop everything to help a stranger find their child. If our trauma had to be public, maybe it can serve a purpose. But mostly, I try not to think about the video at all. It's part of our story, but it's not the whole story. The whole story includes the therapy sessions and the late-night cuddles and the swimming lessons and the birthday parties and all the ordinary, non-viral moments that make up a life rebuilt. The camera wasn't rolling for the healing part. Emma's in kindergarten now, my kindergarten, which feels both full circle and slightly terrifying. She's thriving, making friends, learning to read, developing the kind of confidence that comes from feeling safe in the world again. Sometimes her classmates' parents recognize me. They're invariably kind, understanding that teacher-parent relationships require a certain professional distance. They don't ask for details or selfies. They just say, "I'm glad you're both okay," and leave it at that. Small communities are better at holding space for complicated stories. I still teach. Still love watching 5-year-olds discover that letters make words and words make stories. There's something healing about being surrounded by beginnings all day, by children who see each day as a fresh possibility rather than a potential threat. But I'm different in the classroom now. More aware of the children who seem anxious, who cling too tightly to their parents at drop-off, who startle at loud noises. Trauma has made me a more compassionate teacher, more attuned to the signs that a child might be carrying burdens too heavy for small shoulders. Experience teaches in ways textbooks can't. Emma doesn't remember much about the carjacking itself, which the therapists say is normal and probably protective. But she remembers the period afterward, the anxiety and tears and disrupted routines. She remembers feeling scared and not understanding why. "I'm glad we're not scared anymore," she told me recently while we were walking to school. "We're not as scared," I corrected gently. "It's okay to still feel scared sometimes. Scared is just a feeling, and feelings pass." Teaching her that emotions are temporary might be the most important lesson I ever share. The truth is, I do still feel scared sometimes. Scared of crowded parking lots, scared of men approaching our car, scared of any situation where I might not be able to protect Emma. But the fear doesn't control our lives anymore. It's just there, a background hum of caution that keeps us aware without keeping us paralyzed. Fear can be functional if you don't let it become everything. Dr. Kellerman and I meet monthly now instead of weekly maintenance sessions to make sure the coping skills stay sharp. She says I've made remarkable progress, that many people with similar trauma never regain the sense of safety I've rebuilt. "What do you think made the difference?" she asked during our last session. I thought about it for a long time. The therapy helped, obviously. Emma's resilience inspired me. The support of family and friends carried us through the darkest moments. But I think what saved us, ultimately, was the community that formed around that live stream. 47 million people who watched our nightmare and chose to help instead of just consuming. They turned our trauma into connection, our fear into collective action. Sometimes the internet gets it right. I think, I told Dr. Kellerman, we were held by something bigger than ourselves when we couldn't hold ourselves. Community as therapy. Love as medicine. Next month marks 2 years since the carjacking. Emma wants to celebrate what she calls our brave day, not because we were brave, but because we survived something scary and came out stronger. I'm not sure how I feel about celebrating, but I understand her need to mark the day, to reclaim it from fear and trauma. Maybe we'll plant flowers in the backyard, create something beautiful to honor the growth that came from the pain. Surviving shouldn't be invisible. I've been asked to speak at conferences about trauma and social media, about the intersection of personal crisis and viral fame. Mostly I decline. Our story belongs to us now, not to the internet. But occasionally, when I think it might help someone else navigate the collision between private pain and public attention, I say yes. Always with the caveat that I can only speak from my experience, that trauma is as individual as fingerprints. Every survivor's path looks different. The questions are always similar. How do you recover when your worst moment is permanently public? How do you protect your child from unwanted attention? How do you separate the person you are from the person the internet thinks you are? The answers are harder. You recover slowly, imperfectly, with help. You protect your child by modeling boundaries and resilience. You remember that the internet's version of you is just a story, not the truth of your whole life. Identity is more than your most dramatic moment. Emma's bedtime routine has evolved to include what she calls gratitude time, where we each share 3 good things from our day. It started as a therapy suggestion but became a family tradition. Tonight, she's grateful for the purple markers at school, for chicken nuggets at lunch, and for the way our cat Mr. Whiskers sleeps curled up like a donut. I'm grateful for Emma's laughter at breakfast, for the parent who thanked me for helping their shy child make friends, and for the ordinary safety of tucking my daughter into her own bed in our own house. Gratitude is a practice that rewires the brain toward hope. Sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gone live that day. If I'd just run after the car screaming into the void instead of screaming into a camera. Would Emma have been found as quickly? Would the community response have been as swift and comprehensive? I'll never know, and that's okay. What I do know is that the live stream, for all its complications and consequences, connected us to help when we needed it most. It reminded me that even in the worst moments, we're not alone. That strangers will run towards someone else's emergency, will share and search and care about a child they've never met. That's the part of the story I want to remember. The viral fame faded, the news cycle moved on, The video became just another piece of internet history. But the connections formed that day, the community that rallied around one scared mother and her missing child, that's permanent. Love is the thing that lasts. Emma is 5 now, starting to understand that our story is part of something bigger. She knows that sometimes bad things happen to good people, but that good people also show up to help when bad things happen. She knows that being scared doesn't make you weak, that asking for help doesn't make you helpless, that healing takes time, and that's perfectly normal. These are lessons I hope she never needs, but am glad she has. When people ask if I regret going live that day, I always pause. The honest answer is complicated. I regret that Emma and I experienced trauma. I regret that our private crisis became public entertainment. I regret the sleepless nights and panic attacks and months of therapy. But I don't regret the live stream itself. I don't regret the community that formed around our fear, the strangers who became temporary family, the 47 million witnesses to the truth that love makes us brave, even when we don't feel brave. Some regrets are worth carrying if they come with gifts. Tonight, as I write this while Emma sleeps peacefully down the hall, I can hear the ordinary sounds of our rebuilt life. The dishwasher running, the cat purring, the neighbor's dog barking at something only he can see. These sounds used to make me nervous, potential threats disguised as normalcy. Now they're just the soundtrack of safety, the background music of a life no longer defined by 18 minutes of terror. Recovery sounds like boring Tuesday nights. The video will outlive us both, probably. Somewhere in the infinite memory of the internet, that scared mother will always be running down Florin Road, always live streaming her worst moment for the world to see. I've made peace with that permanence, mostly. That woman running in flip-flops, sobbing license plate numbers to strangers, she did what she had to do. She saved her child by sharing her terror, by trusting the world to help when she couldn't help herself. She was braver than she knew. But she's not who I am anymore. I'm the woman who survived the aftermath, who rebuilt from rubble, who learned that healing is possible even when healing is public. I'm Emma's mother, full stop, not just in crisis, but in calm. Identity evolves beyond our worst moments. If you've made it this far in our story, if you've witnessed our journey from trauma to recovery, thank you. Not for the views or the engagement, but for seeing us as whole people rather than just a viral moment. Being seen fully is its own form of healing. Emma and I are okay now. Not perfect, not unmarked by what we've been through, but okay in the deepest sense of the word. We're present in our lives instead of trapped in our past. We're grateful for ordinary moments instead of just surviving them. Okay is enough. Okay is everything. Share your story of survival in the comments below, and hit subscribe for more real talk about healing after trauma.